Howdy, everybody, and welcome back to the final part for our Display Manager mini series here. I'm sorry it's taken so long for me to get this video out, but I recently got a new job and I don't really have a lot of spare time because I have a 4-hour commute. So, yeah, it's kind of difficult working on stuff right now. But yeah, I got some free time here, so let's get cracking on this. So I just wanted to kind of do a wrap up of all the things that we have done. We have talked about here. Let me show you. Here we go. So back when Game Maker Studio 2 came out, this guy, or was it even when it came out, or was it just sometime in the past? Ranger X made this great post about scaling in the Yo-Yo forums. And it was where I based most of my information for this series of videos on. So as you can see, he kind of talks about different ways of scaling your game and how you go about doing it to some extent. And then I expanded a little bit more on it in my series here. So first off, we have games displayed pixel perfect at all times. And that is back when I, in the game here, when I first showed you, let me go here, zoom in a little bit closer. I showed you a bit about how to, back here in the create event, how to make a game that will just have whatever dimensions you give it, and that's all it has. And that's basically what this is, what he's talking about here with the, there we go. That should match the size. Yeah, that's what he's talking about here about pixel perfect scaling at all times. So when you make a game that shows up in a window that fits inside of the monitor that you are displaying on, so typically like a 360 by a 16 by 9 window of 360 pixels wide, that will fit on pretty much any monitor in existence. And that would always be pixel perfect because it's always at the scale that you wanted. And then we also added in this little bit of a zoom here, which would even cause it to try to fit itself to your monitor as best as possible, depending on, you'd have to change this depending on if your game is portrait or if it's a portrait, you want to flip these around. And if it's a landscape like most 16 by 9 monitors, then you should be just fine as it is. But sometimes, that's not really enough to take care of what you need. There we go. So we got here. We had another option then. So we could display our games scaled, but always respecting the screen ratio. Yeah, that's what I was saying here. You add in this. It scales your game, but it respects the ratio of the monitor. This isn't completely the exact same thing he's talking about here, though, because this also includes what he's talking about here would be good for 3D games or vector art, because this would be where you get rid of this bit and you don't have this bit either, and you just scale your window up to the size of the monitor and have it the built-in aspect ratio handler. So I showed you back over here in your display options that you could set your graphics here and tell it to keep the aspect ratio or full scale, and you just tell the window to scale to the monitor. And that would be this scales, but respecting the screen ratio, the aspect ratio of your screen. And then, like I said, it will work for pixel games. However, it kind of is really messy because the more your pixel game, the aspect ratio of your pixel game doesn't match the aspect ratio of your monitor, the further the way from it. So 16 by 9, it would be like 16 by 9 is 1.7778, and then let's say if you had a 1.2 monitor, which would be 5 by 4, I believe, and that would cause your game to severely stretch and distort as compared to like if you had a 1.662 monitor as opposed to the 16 by 9 1.778. Is it 1.778? Yeah, 1.778. So you wouldn't get nearly as much stretching and distortion in that case. And you could actually put in a little thing here where you would say, well, I can't code it off the top of my head here, but it would be you'd put in a little thing here saying, if my aspect ratio is larger than this range, then instead of scaling my game because I think there will only be like a couple pixels difference, then you would switch to doing the next option, which would be in this case games displayed. Well, not this. Games that use overscan, or in my case, letterbox, as I called it. So that would be where you have the game where it centers it into the middle of your window and draws it in the middle there, and then you can put like a background or whatever behind it if you want. And then last but not least, we also had the games with their displayed playfield changing size, and that is the pixel perfect math. So not for all games, can be disabled, blah 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 blah. This dynamically changes the view size that you create for your game, so that if your game doesn't scale proper, if it doesn't match your your monitor's aspect ratio, it will dynamically change how much of the game you can see. And that's kind of limited too, because you have to make sure that you can't have your game, you can't have a monitor that will so let's say a person had a monitor that was 1,000 pixels tall and only 1 pixel wide. That would cause them to be able to see 1,000 pixels tall in the game, but it would only be seen 1 pixel wide, which might not be very good for mini games. But there might be some games where there's some sort of tactical advantage in being able to see 1,000 pixels tall and only 1 pixel wide. And so you'd have to put in a limiter that would prevent your game again from being able to scale that, to change your pixel perfect scaling to whatever size. It would limit the aspect ratio of your pixel perfect scaling, so you couldn't go beyond a certain aspect ratio difference. And that would be kind of the same as what I was talking about with the game being scaled. Again, you would be able to limit the aspect ratio of the scaling option as well. So yeah, so those are our 4 different things that we can do here. We can have a windowed game that will always be pixel perfect, but it's windowed, and a lot of people don't really associate windowed games with top of the line good games, even though they are perfectly fine top of the line good games. In fact, most of the time I play my games as windowed full screen, which is just windowed except scaled up to full screen. And because it's easier when I have multiple monitors to be able to click on the monitor on the right if I want to change what video I'm watching on YouTube or something like that. So that's that's something I do there. And then with this, games displayed scaled but not always respecting the screen ratio. So again, we can scale up our game using just this little bit of code, add in a little limiter that says if my aspect ratio goes over or under this amount, then don't let me go over or under this amount. And then let's see, we also had the changing your playfield view size. Again, you can limit the aspect ratio difference that can be displayed. So, and that uses the pixel perfect math here to be able to do that. And finally, games that use overscan or letterboxing in order to create a game where the monitor displays in the center. It's basically a windowed game, except it's still full screen, but you've windowed it to the center of the game. And this allows you to get pixel perfect, but it then gives you the option to put a border that can blend seamlessly with your game so that they never notice that you're actually, the game is just in the very center of the monitor, because they'll be seeing this border all the way through. And yeah, so those are a bunch of different options there, and you should be able to do any of these options, and it'll pretty much work for any game that you have. And I don't know anything more to say about it, so just enjoy and experiment, and you'll probably be able to find your own ways of doing all these things. This is just kind of stuff that I came up with on the fly, and the main reason why I put all this stuff here is because I was originally going to have it as part of my my upcoming Chip and Dale tutorial, except then I decided, you know what, this is just too much stuff. I really should split it off into its own tutorial series, because there's going to be so much, there's going to probably be a lot of questions about this, and it's really a big complex topic. So yeah. Anyways, look forward to the upcoming Chip and Dale tutorial, and if you're seeing this in the future and it's already out, I hope you enjoyed it. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and good luck with your programming.